I've changed back to my Burn to Disk dialog, and now I'd like to show a further function. And to do this, I'll go into the Movie tab up here in the first section of the Burn to Disk window. For the minute, we've only got one film, and that's our main sequence that we edited here, and this has been selected as the content of this disk. In addition to this, the sequence had various chapters. That means that I can jump to individual sections of this sequence via the chapter menu. If I go back into the movie section, then in this lower field we can see the Add Sequence function. If I select this button, then I can choose another sequence from my project that I'd like to add as content for my disk. For example, I could choose this intro sequence, and in so doing, that would be a separate item on my DVD that could be selected. Having done so, we can see a new item, and I can see that the intro sequence only has one chapter, whereas my main film has 5 chapters. Those are the chapters that we created using sequence markers. I'll close the window for now, and I'll save my settings, and I'll look at the intro sequence in Edius. So this is the sequence in which I created my intro, and now this is content that can be selected on the DVD. Using the same method, I could create as many sequences as I'd like with completely different films, and then combine them for DVD or Blu-ray export. I'll call up the export window with Shift F11, which is the keyboard shortcut. And if I change into the Style tab, then we can see that an option has disappeared. This would be the option of No Title Menu. This option is no longer available, and this is because we have more than one item on our disk. Of course, this makes sense, as if I have multiple films on my disk, then I need a title menu to be able to choose which film or which sequence I'd like to watch. So we can see here that now I can choose my main film, which is the title we gave our first sequence, or I can choose the intro sequence. And this is how we can add further sequences to our disk, and those sequences can then be selected directly. I can also specify that I don't want to have any chapter buttons in my title menu, or that I'd actually like to avoid having a chapter menu. To start with, it might seem strange to not have any chapter buttons and no chapter menu. We could assume that any chapter settings would be useless in that case. However, they aren't, because using a remote control on a disc player, you can jump to the correct chapters. The only difference is you can't choose these chapters from the menu. And so, to recap this function, we can see that under the Movie tab, we can use the Add Sequence function to specify further sequences to appear on our disk. And this is of course rather useful on a DVD or a Blu-ray, as there is plenty of place to have multiple films.